Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Death Stranding 2 because so many people, it just feels like the coverage, the conversation, the reviews of this and stuff, they're just wrong. And I want to talk about why, because there is a fundamental aspect to Death Stranding that is so incredibly crucial. Connectivity. The fact that when you play Death Stranding 1 or Death Stranding 2, there is this bleed through effect. These games are now out. If you play Death Stranding 2 right now on your PlayStation 5, you will see the fingerprints of other players, the graffiti they leave behind, the guns on the ground will have their name on it. Or sometimes if you're just exploring some random desert, sometimes you find an abandoned vehicle that you can drive back to town. The roads that players are binding together to build, or hints on the ground and stuff like that. Death Stranding 2 is about every player silently marching towards that same goal. And the people that played this early access, I kind of feel like them skipping it is different. I want to talk about this game because honestly, every single part of it is just perfect. From the incredibly weird story to the really awesome graphics to the super addictive gameplay. Let's talk about Death Stranding 2 because I've been just super hooked on it. I've played 22 hours so far on my PlayStation 5 Pro, and I think that this is going to win some Game of the Year awards. I'm not sure it fully deserves that, but let's talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, I want to break this into that 3 separate chunks. I want to talk about the gameplay, the graphics, which obviously are literally the best graphics of all time, and finally the story in a spoiler-free fashion. But let's start with that combat. So, there was, of course, a lot of fighting in the original Death Stranding. There was boss fights, there were some pretty cool encounters, but this time around, it feels like there's more of a focus on the combat this time around. And I have to say that this is such a dramatic change that feels super, super interesting, which is that when you're looking at the gameplay of Death Stranding, a lot of it seems chill. You're just walking from place to place or driving a little vehicle. You're making deliveries, right? You know, that's the meme. People say that this is just the UPS delivery driver game. But in Death Stranding 2, there is a lot more stuff that you can choose to fight. So the way this game sort of works is it's broken down into episodes. I won't say how many, but there's a decent chunk of these episodes. And a lot of times they have these big mission chunks, a destination. Hey, Sam, we need you to connect this. We need you to go here. And once you get that objective, you're set out. You're given a destination and it opens up a map. But this map, I like the fact that it'll tell you all the hazards. Hey, here's a giant river. Here's a toxic tar pit. Here's where we're getting some ghost readings of the BTs, which are like the evil spirits that try to kill you. Oh, there's a bunch of bandits over here. And if you want, you can beat this game with almost no combat, other than obviously boss fights. You can choose to avoid so much. I actually decided to test it specifically. If you want, you can play the entire game entirely stealth, times where you just slip past a bunch of the opponents. I once did a mission where I purposely did not bring a gun. I snuck into an enemy base and hacked this jammer so I could sneak past. It felt incredibly cool, but if you do choose to go good and guns blazing, you can do some crazy action. You can do side quests that unlock sniper rifles. You can do main quests that'll give you laser boomerangs and all sorts of stuff. But to me, I really just enjoyed going in, guns blazing and sniping people a lot, because this very much feels like classic Metal Gear Solid, or even Metal Gear Solid 5, which is that one of the things that works best about MGS5 is when you could see a base off in the distance and you had time to pick out targets, to select each person. You can do that here. You can go up into one of the little watchtowers. You can construct stuff and then say, hey, there's 12 targets at these 4 tents. How can I take them all down as undetected as possible? The combat is so incredibly fun, but also something that I have to admit I was the most surprised about in a pleasant sense is that they are very, very good about just piling up the ammo. Like, a lot of these guns don't have a ton of shots in them, but whenever you finish one of these missions, they give you full health, they refill your stamina, they give you a ton of grenades and stuff like that. I like the fact that if you choose to play this like Metal Gear Solid in Australia, you can do that. But if you want to be a bit more careful or a bit more sneaky, you can do that as well. Now, while you're playing this, it is still predominantly about deliveries. It's about going out there and trying to just survive that next big port. our main character here, Sam Bridges, his job is a porter. In the world of Death Stranding, essentially, death can be deadly to everybody around you. If bodies are not properly disposed of and properly, well, basically destroyed, they can explode. We're talking actual nuclear explosion. It's called a void out. So this has led to a society that's incredibly terrified of everybody. They live in these very separate bunkers. So the most dangerous job on the planet is the porters, the people that actually manually carry stuff from base to base. Their job is basically to deliver medical supplies or things for their replicators. They can 3D print more stuff. And you, as Sam, your job in the second game is to do what you did to America in the first game, but now you're in Australia. And it's super cool seeing this new biome, it's stuff like that. But I also really just like the fact that they give you a vehicle way earlier on. You had to play, I don't even know, about 10 hours in the first game before they just gave you a car. This game, sometimes in games, I feel like they give you a vehicle because there's not enough detail to environments. They want you to cruise past it. Every part of this game looks fantastic. And even when you do get cars or you're trying to traverse stuff and putting down ladders and crossing rivers, every single part of this just looks and plays so good. There's this fun sort of mental puzzle as you plan your route across rocks or through enemy camps or just trying to dodge evil ghosties. Every part of this looks and feels so incredibly good. And this is kind of what I feel like is the important aspect of why the reviewers have kind of missed the fun aspect of finding the remains of other players. Other people, the stuff they leave behind, the stuff they build is in your area. I think it's so cool. People will build like a storage locker, and then whenever you open it up, you can leave items behind or other players. There's this stuff called timefall. It'll basically rain down this rain, and when it touches stuff, it hyper ages. It'll actually rot your gear if you don't constantly put in like a preserving spray. There are these special umbrellas, timefall protection. I've had times where I was very desperate. I'm trying to deliver cargo that is incredibly delicate. If it gets damaged, it hurts my pay. And I would find a timefall umbrella that another player had left. That is so incredibly cool. It's such a unique experience to feel how the other players are also preparing for the worst. And I love that about it. But let's talk graphics. This is the best visuals of any game I've ever seen. Every tiny eyelash, every tiny blemish on people's skin, every micro expression. This is legitimately the best graphics I have ever seen in my life, especially when it comes to all the environmental stuff. I've been in a rock slide avalanche. I've been trying to get through a forest that's currently raining meteors and catching on fire. I've gone through sandstorms that were so filled with tension and stuff. They're actually having these static electricity lightning bolts. This game is so gorgeous. It has no load times. It has no pop-in. I legitimately do not understand how they did it. It's like on a fundamental scale, I want to watch TED Talks or like director commentary to explain how this was possible. Because even when there's weird stuff like the giant boss fights, oh, it's a giant octopus summoned by a bunch of like red cloaked cultists. They show up. It looks so good. Zero slowdown. A million things happening at once. I don't understand how this game looks so good. It truly feels impossible. This is my PlayStation 5 Pro gameplay here. This is the first time where it feels like a game that is built for PlayStation. Sony has admitted that a bunch of Sony developers and stuff help with this. I have no idea what secret dark magic made this game, but it seems absolutely impossible. I mean, truly impossible. I love the way this game looks, but that brings me to the story. Now, this is going to be spoiler free, but I want to talk about this because my one complaint about this game is that it does feel like Norman Reedus, the main character Sam, I still feel like he's a little bit even more emotionally blank in this game. And I feel like at times it doesn't work. There's a lot of times where when you're connecting people, your goal to connect all of Australia to the chiral network, to make it so that we can now share information, so we can share schematics and 3D printers, share supplies, basically rebuild society. We must reconnect. At times, I feel like the emotional impact should be more severe. Some of the events in this game are so catastrophic, so beautiful, so terrible. Speeches as characters die a hero's death or talking about the afterlife or purpose or things like that. They're so well acted. They're so well written that when Sam Doesn't even say, okay, there are times where the main character literally sees the most impossibly beautiful thing you've ever seen, and then he just straightens his backpack and keeps walking. I feel like it's that maybe they only had Norman Reedus for a certain amount of time, so they didn't want to record a reply to every single thing that happens. But at times, I wish he reacted a bit more. But exploring Australia, it looks so good. And I also really like a lot of the new characters. A lot of people return and stuff like that, but a lot of the new characters, a lot of the new stuff, it's so absurd. I feel like it does a good job of bringing your guard down. Like one of the new characters, it turns out that you're all working for like a mannequin, or the mannequin's not really who it is, but it's basically a person that talks to a mannequin in the center of your ship. You get calls from the mannequin. You run into George Miller, the director, George Miller, director of Mad Max, is in the game as your guy Tarman, who drives your underwater flying tar machine. There's so much stuff in this game that is so ridiculously bizarre, and yet it also all fits together. I really do feel like you have to play the first game, and part of it is because you got to know a lot of these concepts like the BTs and chiral networks and all that stuff like that, but I do feel like a lot of it is kind of just to insulate your brain to understanding the chaos of Death Stranding 2, just the absurd chaos of every single moment of this game. I love this game. I just feel like it is so incredibly strange. And I feel like there's just not enough games like this these days. I'm glad I bought this. I'm glad I'm playing it because really, it's cool to go against like a dark universe version of Solid Snake. It's cool to see all this like Kojima weirdness. It's nice to play a game that is so weird and so visionary, even if I feel like some people are kind of missing the point. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. Honestly, I'm loving Death Stranding 2. I feel like I'm on chapter 12 of 17, so I'm definitely deep into it now. I just wanted to talk about it because honestly, I love it. How do you feel about Death Stranding 2? And specifically, do you have a PlayStation 5 Pro? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.